Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for some bonus pre-modern content on your weekend. So today I am playing a food chain deck. Now we played some food chain in pre-modern recently on the channel. It's a deck that doesn't really have a fleshed out archetype, so I've been working on it a little bit, and I've been in contact with someone called Sunny who has been playing their own version, and we swapped some tips around and they sort of changed their deck a little bit after some of the stuff I said, and this is what they came up with. So I'm excited to give it a whirl. So food chain is a card that you may have seen before on this channel. We exile a creature, we get X mana plus 1 of any one colour, where X is the exiled creature's mana value. There's no way of going infinite, but what we can do is we can just go up the chain and then play something big. So our big thing that we're going to be looking for is something like a Hypnox here. But we also have Phantom Nishoba. So as long as we have like an additional creature somewhere along the lines, we can hopefully get enough mana plus the other colour to play the Nishoba. Where this build differs from my build is it's also running Survival of the Fittest. So we have an ability here, instead of running the Fierce Empath that I was using, this is using a Survival of the Fittest to go and find whatever creature it needs. We also have Squee, so we just have a good value engine built into the deck. So we can every turn go and get the best creature. So we're effectively drawing 2 cards a turn. We've got some singletons to look at. We have Desolation Angel. So this is a 5/4 flyer for 5 mana, which is not a bad rate to be honest. And when it enters, destroy all lands you control. Not great, but if it's kicked, you destroy all lands. So the idea is we can ramp up the chain and then Armageddon. And that's going to be quite interesting to try out. We've got the Gargantua, which is part of our engine to just keep going. This just gets us some more cards deeper into our deck. We need resources to keep deploying our things. We've got some other cantrips in the form of Phyrexian Rager and Wall of Blossoms too. We've got ourselves a Deranged Hermit, which makes a lot of tokens. We can sack all of these tokens for 1 mana and the Deranged Hermit itself if we need to, or we can just have a threat that's pretty reasonable. We've got a Mystic Snake, which we can go for, which is a little way of making combo decks have to respect us a little bit, or maybe we get to snipe them out when they're not expecting us to have a counter spell, and we can just fire this up. So that's hopefully going to become in clutch at some point. We have Nantuko Vigilante. This is a morph. We turn it face up, we destroy target artifact enchantment. So this is a tutorable Naturalize for our deck, basically. And that's kind of it for those things. We also have one other engine card in here with Recurring Nightmare. So we can use this and just keep recycling our draw effect, so we can keep getting more and more cards in our hand, and hopefully find enough stuff to put our opponent away. We've got some interaction in here in the form of Mesmeric Fiend, where we can have a look at our opponent's hand. What we can do is we can play this, and with the trigger on the stack, exile it to food chain, and then the bottom trigger will resolve, and then the top trigger will take a card from the hand and never be able to get it back. We can do the same with Faceless Butcher, but removing creatures. We've got a little bit of fast mana in the form of Birds of Paradise and Wall of Roots, or mana ramp I should say rather than fast mana, to help us get up the curve. We can go off as early as turn 2 if we go Birds into food chain and just have the right creatures in hand. Our mana base is pretty clean. We've got swamps, we got forests, we got Llanowar Wastes, and then we've got some City of Brass just as some additional dual lands. Sideboard wise, we've got a Gilded Drake we can go and fetch if our opponent's playing something big and scary that we need to steal. Got some Cabal Therapies for some more disruption. A Genesis, if we need to go long and grindy, we can just use this to get more and more value. We can fetch this with the survival. We've got some Graveyard Hate in the form of Phyrexian Furnace, so we can tap it to exile the bottom card, or we can pay 1 and sacrifice it to exile target card and draw a card from a graveyard. We can disrupt some annoying lands. We've got Natural Order as well, which I'm not 100% sure what this is finding really. Like paying 4 mana just to tutor up something like a Deranged Hermit doesn't seem the most impactful. I guess we can also get the Phantom Nishoba. I'm curious to see when this comes in. We'll play some games and maybe find out. And we've got some Naturalizes as just a nice catch-all to blow up some stuff that might be causing us issues. So this is the list, and I'm going to give it a whirl today. So please remember to like and subscribe. And if you do like this pre-modern content, let me know. That's the best way of seeing more of it on the channel. If I know that people are watching it and are enjoying it, and that's really cool. Obviously, I'm very much in the food chain space because that's a deck that I've been working on. So there's going to be some other food chain videos down the stretch. But let me know what you want to see in pre-modern and if it is something you're interested in. And subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps support the channel, and it means I can get towards that 5k subscribers for my birthday in April. That would be lovely. All right. Let's get food chaining. All right, we're into round 1. This hand works for me, I think. We can keep this. We don't have anything on turn 1, but this format is certainly a lot slower than the legacy that you'd normally see on my channel, where games are not necessarily decided on turn 2, but you have to have done something pretty important by turn 2. So we can just play out a nice little forest here. Next turn we can jam the Wall of Roots. And then we can do some survivaling. We've got double survival, so we might be able to push through any sort of disruption our opponent has. I'm expecting some counter magic from our opponent here. Not necessarily on our Wall of Roots, but the Survival was a good target for that. But having this in play first, it makes it easier to play around soft permission that our opponent may have access to. I have no idea what our opponent's playing. Premodern is a very open format that I'm not super familiar with just yet. Alright, so we'll play out another forest. That's survival. So we can play 2 survivals this turn, which maybe will tax our opponent's counter magic. Counter spell. Sure. Let's try a second one. Alright, we're in. So in our opponent's turn, we can put a counter on this Wall of Roots and go in survival. If they blow it up right now, that's obviously annoying for us. A white mana source. An Enlightened Tutor. So this could be the Replenish deck, which I think is one of the strongest decks in the format for sure. Seal of Cleansing. Okay. There is the Seal of Cleansing. I'm just going to pop it straight away on our survival. They are. I will discard a card here. What am I discarding? I don't really want to get rid of this Hermit. I think we can probably do without the birds here. What are we looking for? Kind of want this Mesmeric Fiend, but it's not going to be an easy thing to cast is the problem. We could go for just something like a Wall of Blossoms and just get some more cards going. I don't think that's the worst idea. Yep, sure. I'm going to get this Wall of Blossoms. Alright, so Enlightened Tutor is card disadvantage. Now we're up on cards on our opponent, so we're just trying to grind away. But our opponent's obviously going to have like a big reload at some point with some kind of replenish. Powder Keg. Okay, so this specifically destroys artifacts and creatures. So this shouldn't matter too much to us. A Rager. So we could play the Food Chain. Yeah, I think we're going to do some Food Chain stuff here. Let's get the Food Chain out. Opponent's got 1 card in hand, so I'm not expecting too much here. And this, let's exile this for green mana. Let's cast this Wall of Roots using our creature spell mana. Sorry, Wall of Blossoms. Get a little bit deeper. Not really what we want to see. Let's get some black mana going. Let's deploy this Rager. Another card deeper. A Swamp. Don't hate having that. This gives us 4 mana, 5/6, so we can sack this for black. Or, sorry, exile. It's very important that this isn't the same as sacrificing. So we'll draw 2 cards. Then it's not actually been the most fruitful. We could just keep our 4/4 in play, which I honestly think is fine here. And then next turn we can just play a Deranged Hermit as a beat stick. Like 4/4 is a pretty big power and toughness. Also, we don't want to get the Deranged Hermit while our opponent has the Powder Keg on 0. But now it's on 1, we don't worry about it too much. They got 3 blue mana up, so Counterspell is a possibility here. So we could jam this Deranged Hermit straight into it, which is obviously the most powerful thing we can do. Do I think our opponent has a Counterspell? I think we do just slam it here. Like, they were tapping out before, so I have to imagine they didn't really have what they necessarily wanted. They'd be more likely to hold open Counterspell than what they did before with playing the Powder Keg out. So this is going to take a while before it can blow anything up. Alright. Our opponent has conceded the match, not just the game. Okay, that's some... I'll take that match. Our opponent's disconnected. I don't know if they are just done with us or they have connection issues. We don't know. But we got the match, so let's go back to the play lobby and fire in another round. We are on the play. Our hand does not play though, so we're going to have to mulligan this one. This does not have any lands in, so we're going deeper. Alright, we can keep this one. Wasteland is a thing that exists in this format. We've got to get rid of 2 cards. I think it's these 2. Because we obviously need a critical mass of creatures to redo our thing. So I'd rather keep the creatures around. We will need to find a mana source or have our Wall of Roots make it around the table, but Wall of Roots isn't the sort of card that attracts removal and answers. Just a little Flooded Strand and over to us. Alright, I'm going to jam this Wall of Roots. I don't believe we're going to lose a Wall of Roots to any removal, but we'll see. Fetching an island, nothing, and the end step. Interesting. Wonder why they fetched there. I don't know all the metrics and how things are exactly supposed to work in Premodern. I'm still feeling out the format. Llanowar Wastes. So we could be mana efficient and play out the Rager here. Or, actually I like the Rager playing around a little bit of soft permission. This also gets us a clock on. So we've got the Wall of Roots if we need anything. Accumulated Knowledge. Cool. Love the old accumulated knowledges. Another Llanowar Wastes. But we at least have something that has power and toughness. Seal of Cleansing. So you'll see Seal of Cleansing type effects in the main deck of Premodern a lot more than you would expect to. Because back in the day, creatures weren't that hot. But some of the other permanents, boy howdy, they need answering. Alright, over to us. Okay, we've got a Llanowar Wastes. Are we playing out our Wall of Blossoms first? I think we probably are. Maybe we find a slightly different land. We did not. Right, let's get in for 2 damages. We're seeing a plow. Plowing our Wall of Roots. Okay. Interesting to see what our opponent's worried about. A wasteland, sure. That's why we kept the basics to begin with. Parallax Tide. Well, well, well. This is going to be a bit awkward. So if you're unfamiliar with this one, it has Fading 5, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a fade counter on it, and if you can't, then you sacrifice it. So it doesn't die when it goes to 0. It dies when it can't go at all. So you can also remove counters from this to exile target land, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player returns to the battlefield all cards they owned with Parallax Tide. So what they're doing here is they're exiling all of our lands and then putting destroying this. So we get all our lands back trigger happens first, but then they exile all of our lands. You can also achieve that with Stifle as well. We do have a threat, so there is something, but this is obviously not a great position for us to be in. So the Seal of Cleansing, not only being a flexible answer to stuff, is part of their combo if they want it. The old one-sided Armageddon, Mishra's Factory. So we can attack this turn, because this can't tap this turn and they'll have to trade off. But do I want to make that trade? I don't really think I do. Okay, so we're at a bit of a stalemate here. If we can find some more lands, we'll be in an okay spot. We're seeing here Decree of Justice. So just getting a couple of friends. Feels like this one is pretty much out of our control already. But these 1/1s aren't very good at attacking right now, so we can sit back for a bit. Another Accumulated Knowledge. Our opponent is pulling away. And a Standstill. But they can't attack underneath this Standstill, because they have 1/1s and a 2/2. This can be a 3/3 on blocks now that it's not summoning sick. Llanowar Wastes. Okay, we'll just keep playing lands. Another factory, so now it can attack as a 3/3. Or they can attack with 2 2/2s. Come on. We need some lands. Okay, we got nothing here. So we're just sitting there watching. So they might have something like Eternal Dragon also in their deck list. We don't know. Okay, just another Decree of Justice. So there's only a few decks I'm really that familiar with in the format. But we're buried underneath this Standstill. We also don't have any lands. We are getting clowned on a bit here. We're attacking with everything. So we get to... Okay, we get to block 1 to kill it, and then block 1 to save damage. We take 4. But these are pretty disposable cards, because the Decree already replaced itself. They also have a Wasteland ready for our Llanowar Waste if we ever get towards having mana. We can't attack into their 4/4. It can be 4/4 on blocks because it can pump itself and the other one can pump it. Alright. What's our solution to this problem we found ourselves in? If we can hit just run a lands for a number of turns, we'll be okay. Not a land. Okay, I'm going to discard this Mystic Snake. This is not happening for us. This also puts the thought of Mystic Snake in our opponent's head for games 2 and 3. A Wall of Blossoms. Another card we don't get to play. What am I going to get rid of here? It should probably be the Gargantua. But a 4/4 body is actually kind of relevant on this board. Another Decree of Justice. So they're getting 4 1/1s. So they got quite a lot of power over there. What am I going to discard? Interesting. Alright, let's get rid of the Gargantua. It costs a lot of mana. We're unlikely to get that going. Alright, coming in with everything. We can block. And we take 7. Next turn we take 6. Turn after we take 5 and die. So our opponent does have lethal here over the course of a couple of turns. They can also turn their Mishra's Factory sideways next turn. Right, I don't think we're winning this one. Let's go to the sideboard. What would I like to do here? Naturalizes are kind of interesting. The Cabal Therapies are good. Now, we don't necessarily know what we're naming all the time, which is a little bit awkward for us. But I think the Cabal Therapies are probably worth it here. We just name Parallax stuff. And Naturalizes. I don't know how useful the Naturalizers are going to be now I think about it. Because we can't naturalize Standstill for obvious reasons. If we naturalize the Parallax Tide, I guess as soon as we target it, then if they remove stuff, then we'll get them all back. So yeah, that does make sense. We don't know how many other artifacts or enchantments they have though. So 7 cards I'm interested in. The Faceless Butchers didn't seem like they were going to be doing a lot into our opponent's deck, so maybe we can trim on those. We've got our own Land Destruction, I don't mind that. I'm not really in love with the Mystic Snake in our deck, I'm being honest. I think we can get rid of that one. Recurring Nightmare, how much are we using that? It's pretty good when we start looping stuff around and getting these Cabal Therapies hitting. All that sort of jazz, so I don't mind that one. Got 3 more cuts. The Mesmeric Fiend's obviously very good here. The mana, when they're trying to blow up our lands, very good. Oop. It's focusing on this card for some reason. It's kind of annoying for sideboarding purposes, isn't it? Are the Gargantuas just a little bit too slow here? Like, Hypnox is a great thing that we can ramp into. And that's probably more important than getting the Nishoba down. So let's get rid of the Nishoba. We've got 2 more cuts. So the Wall of Blossoms doesn't feel great here. But it is something that we can sack to Cabal Therapies and Recurring Nightmare. If we sit the Recurring Nightmare in play, maybe we have a little bit of access. But our creatures aren't going to be dying to our opponent's stuff. They're going to be getting exiled. So take out 1 Nightmare, I think, and 1 of the Wall of Blossoms. Let's try this. We could play something like Tsabo's Web to try and mess with our opponent's Mistress Factories. But I don't think we care that much about the factories. Alright, Birds of Paradise into Wall of Roots. This is good. We want the mana that isn't lands to get through what our opponent's up to. We did mulligan quite a lot in the first game as well. It was a multiplier, and then we had 4 of our lands destroyed on turn 4. Alright, plough the birds. Makes sense given our opponent's deck. I think we're going to play out this Wall of Roots so that we have the mana when we play these survivals, so we can at least get some value with this Gargantua. A Standstill. Alright, there's 2 ways around playing Standstill. You let them draw up until they have max hand, or you just jam into it straight away and don't lose the tempo, which I believe is what we're going to do here. So let's fire off this survival. Enjoy your cards, opponent. I don't think there's any point in doing survival stuff just yet. Obviously, the Recurring Nightmare, we can put cards in the bin with our survival and bring them back, which is quite good with the Recurring Nightmare. But I don't think it's worth playing to that. I do like the Hypnox as a card here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Alright, I think we're going to get rid of the Gargantua for now. We can go and get a Hermit Druid. That's pretty solid here. So Deranged Hermit, not Hermit Druid. Different Hermits. Alright, so going to clean up now. I got rid of an island. So my lack of knowledge of this format is probably going to come back to bite me a little bit here. Although we could go for discarding this Hypnox. Go get Mesmeric Fiend. Cast Mesmeric Fiend. And then we can play this Cabal Therapy again. Mana Leak. Alright. I'm going to name Parallax Tide because that's kind of what I'm a bit scared of. Just getting counterspelled as well. Just let that go. Let's go for Tide here. They might have Wave in their deck as well. Wrath of God, Wrath of God. Okay, so we're just like doing blue-white control-y stuff. I see. But if we play the Deranged Hermit, we immediately get to take both these Wrath of Gods by sacking a squirrel. So a land off the top is excellent for us and might be enough to win us this game. Not a land. Here's a card we get to cast though here. It's Cabal Therapy, name Wrath of God, please. And would you look at that? We hit 2 Wrath of Gods. But now they do have a win condition in this Decree of Justice. But what we have is a bit stronger now. Obviously, we could turn this into another creature via the survival. But I think just taking the land is what we want to do here. Alright, again in with the factory. This means they're probably not going to do a Decree of Justice this turn. So if we can draw the land and take that from their hand, that's pretty good. But they've got mana up, so maybe they are hoping to get us with a counterspell. I don't think we have the luxury of playing around that. Found the land. They got 1 mystery card in hand. Is it a mana leak? It is not. Okay. Cast with flashback, sacrificing a squirrel. So they could cycle this decree so that we have to name something in the blind. Yep, that's what they're doing. I'm going to name Source to Plowshares, I think, here. No, actually, they've already gone through 2 Source to Plowshares. Maybe we don't name that. Maybe this is Parallax. Tide is the blue one, Wave is the white one, if I remember rightly. I think they're both in our opponent's deck, though. So Tide. An Impulse. Do I care about them having an Impulse here? I could lose a squirrel to stop them having Impulse and just leave them playing off the top. Doesn't leave us with very much, though. I think that's probably okay. So we've got Coastal Tower and Fairy Conclave. All right. We can pay for our Hermit and just keep 5 power on the board. The Mishra's Factory can block our creatures, though, because it can turn itself on, and then once it's blocked, it can tap to pump it, because it can pump an assembly worker by +1/+1. So attacking here for our opponent doesn't look good, but it doesn't look good for us attacking to them yet. I think it's still worth paying for these squirrel tokens, though, because we could just draw a land and have nothing here. If they did a version of Echo these days, it'd probably be you have to pay in your main phase after you've seen your draw. All right, we are absolutely cooking with gas now. We get to do our little Squee loops and just go wild. There's a Coastal Tower. Another Survival. We don't need that one. Okay, right, let's discard this Squee. Let's go and get something tasty here. What are we looking for? Kind of just want a Rager. Just get some more cards going. Seems okay. Another Rager for next turn. All right, we're still at a little bit of a standstill. They can peck away with this Fairy Conclave if they want to, though. I'm surprised that's not what they're doing. All right, they got a big play. Probably a Decree. No, the old Fact or Fiction. Okay. Accumulate knowledge is in the bin. They do not. So, do we care about these counter spells? So, we could do something like this. And then we can go and get the Morph guy next turn that can blow this up if they take this pile. If they take this pile, we can just eventually work through it because we have enough spells. Almost tempted to give them the AK as well. I don't think so. I think it's probably this. Let's see which pile they go for. God, it's been a hot minute since I've had to do a Fact or Fiction pile. Alright, they went for the counter spells, which is fine because we worked through the counter spells quite nicely. They're going to bash us with the Fairy? No, they're not. Okay. So now they've got a couple of counter spells. We can go and get our Squee back. You'd like us to have another Rager? Is it worth a counter spell? Probably not. Get Birds of Paradise. Insulate us a little bit from like Parallax Tide stuff. Don't hate that. I want to get this Nantuko Vigilante, but we can't do that while they have counter spells up. So maybe we need to go and get something bigger. This also allows us to get 6 drops and actually cast them. An Impulse. So what do we need to do that's good enough that our opponent is going to react to it? Don't have the Phantom Nishoba anymore. Right, they've got a Decree. Not for that much here. What, 4? We can easily... Okay, it's only for 3. We can easily block these. It also gives us a flying blocker in case we need it. Llanowar Wastes. Parallax Tide. Right, they found the Tide. Do they have the combo, though? They need to have something to go with it. Right, they can just get rid of our lands for a turn if they want to. This is why we got the Birds of Paradise. So hopefully this is just one that's trying to buy them an extra turn without us developing, rather than they're going to do the other half like a Stifle or whatever and just ruin our day. I'm going to Cabal Therapy, target my opponent here, which is going to get a counter spell perhaps. They only have 1 counter spell available. We know they've got 2 counter spells in hand. So we can take the other counter spell, or we can take something like a Stifle, which is what I'm really worried about. What will we sacrifice here? Kind of similar. Maybe it's just a squirrel again. Maybe it's the Deranged Hermit, although this is 5 mana in the bank when we get a food chain going. And if we sacrifice this, these become 1/1s anyway. Okay, we get rid of squirrel. We're going to name Stifle, because if they stifle the trigger on this, we will struggle a lot. They did have the Stifle. Excellent. So we get our lands back now. We still can't attack because of the Mishra's Factory. Alright. We have lands again. Yay! And now we can cycle away our Squee. Dust Bowl. Destroy target non-basic land. That's not so bad. Let's discard this Squee. Probably get a Mesmeric Fiend here so we can force the action on the counterspell. Some just good old-fashioned grindy magic right here. They're thinking about dust bowling us, maybe. Right, let's get this Mesmeric Fiend on the go. We will take their counterspell that we know they have. I'll play Llanowar Wastes. I will play a Morph. So now we have the next iteration of their combo covered. And if they don't do anything, then we can survival and start getting things like Phyrexian Gargantuas, which can attack. So we've taken a bit of a long way around, but we are in an okay place now. We don't have 2 white mana, so we can't go and play the Angel, but we could do. We could go and get a Birds, and then have the white mana for the next turn to play the Desolation Angel. And just try and lock the game out that way. It's worth a go, isn't it? Let's just get Birds of Paradise. It also insulates us from our opponent having more Parallax Tides. I will play this Birds of Paradise. I'm even going to play a Forest. I don't think I need to play a Forest out here, do I? So how much does the Angel? It's 5, 6, 7 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we got loads of mana. Let's discard this Squee. Let's go and get ourselves... What do we want here? Just another Birds. Let's keep the Birds coming. And then next turn we can blow up all the lands and we just have a big flyer that's hard to deal with. And we also have all the mana resources from our triple Birds. Impulse. Pretty strong. Lots of stuff that could be. We can answer a Parallax Tide. Right, they're animating the Conclave. Cracking in for 2 here. These extra survivals are a little bit awkward for us, but I can live with that. We can also attack and use our Morph to blow up the Mishra's Factory once it gets animated. That's another line we have available to us. Is that better than just blowing up everything right now? Discard this guy. Sweet Angel action. Cast this with Kicker. 1, 2, 3. This is white. This is white. And we need 1 black mana and 1 colourless mana. Alright. Blow up the world here. They're going to stifle me. They are going to stifle me. Okay, we still have a 4/5 flyer though. That's pretty good. And now we get to play our land out. We can attack with some 2/2s. Should have attacked with the Squirrel as well. If they animate the Mishra's Factory, then we blow it up. It's amazing how much this work this Mishra's Factory has done against us though. So we could have just been getting lots of chip shots. So they're going to use this to blow up Llanowar Wastes now. So they're at least getting something out of it. That's fine. They can double block this if they want to. But we've got reasonable damage coming in, and then the big flyer is going to do some work. Having the Nishoba in our deck would have been pretty good in this situation. Right, they're taking out one of our Ragers rather than the Nantuko. That's interesting. I guess they didn't want us to have this Nantuko in our graveyard in case we can recur it. I like our spot now. We managed to grind the value we required. Wrath of God. Okay, Seal of Cleansing. This means that we could be set up for a scary Parallax moment. Right, just getting rid of our survival. Guess what, opponent? They maybe could have deduced that we had some survivals. Like, what would we not be casting in this situation? Right, let's bring back the Squee. We don't actually have any cool stuff to do with the food chain here. So we'll just go play a survival. Discard the Squee. I guess we're just getting a Rager here. Can we get a Gargantua? How much mana have we got? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, we get a Gargantua. It's okay. Play a land out. We'll use the birds for black so we don't take any damage. Now, Wrath of God is pretty bad news for us at this stage. But we just need to get stuff on the board and get over the line, I think. Our opponent is on 1. So they're just trying to rip the Wrath of God here. Do they draw it? Alright, we get to go to game 3. We only have 8 minutes left on our clock. I think I want an Nishoba here because it ends games quite quickly. So I want Natural Order for it. Not really into their counterspell deck. I think Desolation Angel is good news. I think the Hypnox is also pretty good here. Maybe we'll take out a Wall of Blossoms. Actually, maybe we don't need the Naturalizers quite as much as I thought we did. They can stop our opponent's scariest lines. But I think our Hand Disruption can do that better. Alright. We just need to make sure we can win this game in 8 minutes. We don't really want to have a big, long, grindy one again. Now, we could bring in the Recurring Nightmare so that we can just keep looping the Deranged Hermits. Maybe I'll do that. If we had time, I'd consider the Genesis, since this game was a lot grindier than I thought it was. I wasn't sure quite how deep into the enchantment plan our opponent's deck was. But I just sort of like blue-white control with the one-sided Armageddon combo. I don't know if they have wave as well. Right, this is not what I would describe as a keepable hand. This one works. I'll take this. How are we going to get rid of? 1 land, 2 land. Probably don't need all of these therapies, but they're pretty reasonable still. Let's get rid of Rager. Let's name Counterspell. Swing and a miss. Okay. Got Plow. They've got AK. They've got a bunch of stuff that I'm not happy about seeing over there. I think we deploy the Fiend. Because the way this is worded, if they Plow this, then we just get to take another card. So we play this and we take the Plow. They might just cast this AK in response. Just want to make land drops and all that sort of thing. We have to take the Plow here. To be pretty judicious with our clock. So they're going to play an AK from hand. Get that sweet card advantage going. Okay, they drew another Plow. So they have a Plow back in hand. Okay. And they've got Factory. Firing off the AK. So I'm going to name Parallax Tide here. Hopefully they drew another one. Play this one out. So do we want to take this Decree and just slow our opponent's roll again? I don't think we have to take the Decree yet. And we can save some mana up. They're just going to plow our guy straight up? They are. Okay. Okay, we have to crack that, I'm afraid. Another Factory. Right, we'll drop our Rager. Yes, you can have some more cards. It's annoying, but here we are. Let's fire this off. Let's name Decree. Of Justice. It's a pretty scary looking hand over there. Standstill, Mana Leak, and then just bash us down with these Factories. So we take 3 this turn, right? Because they animate and then they pump the other one. We have to crack the standstill before we can get anything going. So the other build that I've been running myself, because this is Sunny's build, the build that I've been running is using some Treetop Villagers. Oh, geez. Is it even worth playing this Cabal Therapy? I don't think so. The one punish is if we don't get... If we draw a Phyrexian Rager, I think. Sorry, not Phyrexian Rager, Phyrexian Gargantua. They should definitely be attacking this turn. Okay. I think they're just relying on the fact that we are far behind on clock. We're just flooding out here. So they might have drawn a Decree of Justice. That's why they didn't attack us. Nope. Okay. I think you at least want to get in with the Factories and sit on your Mana Leak. There we go. Here comes one Factory. You're going to attack with both or just one? Both 4 damage. Sure, this is a 4-turn clock, so they can definitely kill us in the time left. They've got another Factory, so this is 5 damage. Which is still a 4-turn clock, so they didn't really need to pump here. But they don't have anything else to do with their mana, so that makes sense, I guess. You can fire off a Mana Leak, but our black mana is tied up in Llanowar Wastes, so that extra point for the 5 damage is actually kind of a big deal. Do I want to Cabal Therapy here? I think we have to. Because we know there's a Mana Leak. It could draw into a counter spell as well. Hibernation. Return all green creatures that are in his hand. Survival down. And carry on. So have a disenchant so they can disenchant our survival. That was pretty sloppy actually. Shouldn't have played this out. I should have waited. That was my bad. I'm just trying to play quickly because our clock is nearly over. But I don't think we can win this game. No, I'm just going to skip this one up. We don't have time to win this one. I think our opponent's just too far ahead. Doesn't help that we played the... Alright, we're on the draw for round 3. We've got birds into Wall of Roots and stuff. We can work with this. Another blue-white deck, you say? Let's get the birds, see if it gets a plow or something pointed at it. It did not. So I'm a little bit worried about some of the things our opponent could have here. But I think we're just going to jam this. Is that true? Do we jam the survival or do we jam... Maybe jam the Wall of Roots first. And then we try the survival as well. If this gets countered, we can food chain. and play a Gargantua next turn. Because the Wall of Roots is 4 mana, right? And then this is 2. Just good old-fashioned counterspell, sure. You encounter a food chain? They're not. Interesting. There's 1 mana, 2 mana. So we can exile this guy for black. Just 3 black. And then we can exile this for black. And we can cast this Gargantua. Single counterspell kind of stuffs this. Alright, we just get to draw some cards. I figured them letting us have the food chain meant they didn't have a counterspell. But we put a decent chunk of resources into this Gargantua. This could just be the exact same match we just played, you know. Could be the same deck. Mishra's Factory. At least this time we have a 4-4. Can't say how long we're going to have this 4-4. Around 4, but we'll see. If they are the same deck, we want to make sure we have mana sources like Wall of Roots in play. And we want to sandbag some lands. An Impulse. They might be getting towards their combo. Wrath of God. Yep, so this is the punish. We're trying to make sure we play around their Parallax, but we play into the Wrath of God. It's the power of this blue-white deck. Okay, Phyrexian Rager, it's your time to shine. Birds of Paradise. I will play you out as well. If there's ever a creature they play, we can take it out. A Stand Still. So they have a 3/3 on blocks. Yeah, our build is really struggling against this Mishra's Factory. We don't actually have anything worth popping it over anyway. So I guess I will play out 1 land, but then we'll keep 2 in hand and pass. This means that we can play a 6-drop. If we lose our creature and draw a land and a Gargantua or whatever, we can play the 6-drop by playing a land from hand. So we don't need to play out any more lands. Now if we draw something even more expensive, then we can sort of change things up a little bit. Alright, Rager. I think we just have to play into our opponent here. Enjoy your standstill cards. I don't believe the Rage is worth counterspelling. But maybe it is. Mana Leak. I'll pay for the Mana Leak. Take damage from the City of Brass. Do you want to spend another card answering our Rager? No. A Mesmeric Fiend. Could fire that off now. That's probably not too shabby. We could sacrifice our Birds of Paradise to do that. Is that better than sacrificing this Rager? Honestly, the Ragers don't feel very good, do they, right now? Let's cast this Mesmeric Fiend. So we're going to do a little fun combo that you don't see very often here. Okay, we're not going to. I was going to say we were going to do the... We're going to sack this with its trigger on the stack, and then we were going to Faceless Butcher, once we know the coast is clear, exile our own Rager, then we can sack our Butcher and get a card back. But that's not what happened. They have the mana to activate their guys, we can't attack. Really feeling the fact that we can't get through these Mishra's Factories. Another standstill, yikes. I think it's worth playing anything out here. Standstill living up to its name. So this is a card that is worth playing, but I don't think it's going to resolve. How likely are we to get this Mesmeric Fiend doing anything? Like, we've got 3 more in the deck, and that's basically our only hand disruption. I think we just have to fire this off, as much as I dislike this. Yeah, get 3 cards. We're almost certainly going to find a counter spell. We're not going to get survival, but we need a card like this to resolve. We don't have the ways to make this card resolve. There is the counter spell, sure. I'm going to deploy a Swamp and play this Faceless Butcher. Exile our Rager. If they kill our Faceless Butcher on the stack, they get both of our guys. But if they don't, then we get to flicker. Okay, they're just stifling it, sure. That's a stifle not being used for our lands getting removed off of the Parallax Tide. My opponent's deck is kind of the quintessential control deck. If I think of what, you know, control used to mean back in the day, very much looks like this. It's a pretty sweet deck, though. Even though it is ruining us in quite a big way. Something large, this way comes. Our opponent went through the motions of playing a Decree of Justice here. Can I have a Rager, please? Gargantua. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can play this Birds of Paradise out and then just sack it immediately. 2 mana, we can then sack this Rager and then cast this Gargantua. Meanwhile, our opponent's going to cantrip and make a bunch of guys. Another food chain, not really what I wanted. Do I want to play out this Wall of Roots? If they're making a Decree of Justice like they signaled to, we want to have the blockers. This also protects us from having our lands removed. Again, we still can't attack because they're going to have a massive creature on blocks. They can have a 5/5 on blocks. They can even stop our Gargantua from doing anything. Maybe we do need the Tsabo's Web just for these things. I guess we separate the spells that do stuff. Would you like a blue source or 2 white sources? I think the powder keg is more dangerous against us, so I'm gonna put the powder keg with just 1 island. So if they want the island, if they want the powder keg, they only get 1 other card. Alright, they didn't want the powder keg, they just kept the stifle. Okay, so they can have 3 3/3s if they want to. They can have a 2/2 and alright. I think we're just in situation send it right now. At least try and delete one of these Mistress Factories. If they block all of these, so we're either going to force through some damage here, or they're going to lose some Mistress Factories. Alternatively, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a lot of justice right there. Too much justice for me. Not feeling great about this. I'm not surprised we're having a rough time against a dedicated blue-white control deck, though. Got 7 little guys. Alright, so trading some guys off there. I'm going to trade those guys off there, and we're going to get 2 damage in. Okay. 2 damage, not a lot of damage. Also behind on clock. Parallax Tide. We're not too bad against the Tide because we have the food chain. Right. Just a 2-card combo to exile 5 of our lands. Not too shabby. But we've been sandbagging lands just so our opponent thinks this is better than it actually is against us. And we have the food chain. Mesmeric Fiend might be able to stop them from having the stifle to go with this. Right, sending in a large Mistress Factory. It can only be a 4-power guy though. Alright, sending in 2 Mistress Factories. That makes a lot more sense. So we get to block 1 here, and that'll do. We take 3 damage, and our opponent has very much turned the corner here. Birds of Paradise. Oh, I think our opponent's got this one up. I'm valuing our time because we went to time previously. We are slightly behind. Do I want to have these? I think I actually do want the Naturalizes as a full through ball because of how scary the Mistress Factories are for us, which is a terrifying thing to say. I don't think we want the Tsabo's Web. The only thing it does is stop our opponents. Maybe the Tsabo's Web is better than the Wall of Blossoms, actually. I don't really like this Mystic Snake. We can't really cast it. What did we take out last time? Butchers, they're not very good here. I want the Hermits, I want the Fiends. Is it Wall of Blossoms? We could replace 1 Wall of Blossoms with 1 Tsabo's Web just to stop these annoying things. So the exact text of this is an activated ability that isn't a mana ability. That won't step on our own toes there. Just gives us a little bit more game against our opponent's Mistress Factories. Being this cold to Mistress Factories is interesting. I think we're keeping. Do I want to Cabal Therapy on 1, or do I want to get my Mesmeric Fiend first? That's an interesting choice. I think I want to get my Fiend first. Just make sure that we can leverage all of our tools. Double Fiend. There's no Mesmeric Fiend for you. Let's see what they're working with. Plow, Standstill, Humility, Annul. Annul is that enchantment counter, isn't it? Humility is some nonsense right there. I guess we take the Plow. Just keep ourselves okay on that situation. So they could play the Standstill. They will eventually have to crack it if they were to do that though. Decided not to. Just having a little peek at the hand. Annul, Impulse, Standstill. I think we take the Impulse here, weirdly. And then we bring those strong beats. Because if they cast Humility right now, it does make our board actually slightly better. And if they play Standstill, we're okay until they find a Mistress Factory. There's another island. Over to us. A Rager. In here. Take the standstill now. Because that's how they're getting really far ahead in a lot of these games. Now they can play a humidity. We've got 3 naturalizes. But we also just have more guys in play right now. And it doesn't affect our current beatdown strategy. Oh no, it was a Wrath of God. That is a disaster for us. Because they get those other cards back as well. And they still got the humidity waiting. Well, well, well. We need to draw land here. Did not draw a land. We can play this survival underneath our opponent's annul. But we are in the dirt, I think, here. They're just going to hold up annul. They're going to play humidity. Now, like I said, we do have the Naturalize we brought it in. A Hypnox. That's a very powerful 1/1 guy. Let's discard a card here. I guess we get rid of the most expensive guy. Let's go and get a 1-mana 1/1. Now we could go get the Squee, but I think it's more important right now just to get something pressuring our opponent's life total. Because that's probably how we win this game, if our opponent just can't put anything into play and we beat them down a bit. Dust Bowl. So they can take out our City of Brass here. Alright, that's what they're doing. Swamp, always had it. Let's attack. So this time we don't get to put a bird into play. So we probably go and get the Squee now. And just have a little card advantage engine going. What am I going to get rid of here? I guess it's the Vigilante. That's not going to work under humidity anyway. Just going to get the Squee for now. Attack with our 1/1. Double that clock. Boom. 7-turn clock enabled. If we can find land, we can deploy the Rager, which will be another power. So in a matter of time before I find something like a decree, our opponent finds a Decree of Justice or whatever. Now, if we can find that Naturalize and take out this humidity, then we obviously switch on a lot of stuff. And hopefully we can do a Hypnox and just erase our opponent's hand. Because you can't respond to the Hypnox trigger. Well, you can respond to the Hypnox trigger. It doesn't go well for you because then everything is exiled permanently. That might be a situation they have to do at some point. So the way Mishra's Factory works underneath humidity is very, very bad for us. Okay, let's get rid of this Squee. We're just trying to take cards out of our deck at this point and thin ourselves towards those Naturalizers. We can't attack into the factory, so it does become a 2/2 because of how layers work. Hence the deck construction. Not a land. Alright. Play another 1/1. Fact or fiction? Don't really want them to have this. You can have some lands. Okay, both of these are bad for us. I don't think we can win this game. I think our opponent's just got us. What do they take? They took the mana leak. Makes sense. It's harder for us to break out if we can't counter anything. So they can attack with a 3/3 here and try and just clean our whole board. Looks like that's where we're going. Nope, they're just... Okay, interesting. Right, we've got a forest. So we can discard this Squee now. Go find another Wall of Roots. Just pass the turn over. Yeah, humidity, not really what we want with our deck focused entirely around creatures either. Especially when it's creatures with abilities, not just, you know, tokens or whatever. Recurring Nightmare. That's certainly a card we're allowed to cast. Okay, let's discard this Squee. Just keep thinning that deck out. Another Wall of Roots. Let's get another Wall of Roots going here. Pass. Maybe we can make enough guys and just do a big Alpha Strike. Seems unlikely. But we have the Cabal Therapy waiting in the wings for when we need to try and resolve something. But it's really not making it easy for us over there, opponent. Seal of Cleansing. Alright, goodbye Survival. Land? Always happy to see lands here. Okay. If we play the Survival, it's definitely getting counterspelled. Is that the end of the world? We could try and nail this annul. We're going to take out the annul. So if they want to counter this, they have to use a mana leak. Oh wow, I had many annuls here. So for 3 cards in hand, so that's mana leak, plow, and flooded strand. That was a pretty good hit here. Do I want to? I don't know if this is the turn I play that. I think we're just gonna get the Rager down. We're just working our way towards a Naturalize. We've got a mana leak to play through, but that is a thing that we can play through. Come on, deck. Another Rager. All right, let's force our opponent's mana leak out. So we could wait for more mana. Maybe that's a slightly better way of approaching that. But we don't have the most amount of time here either. So we've got to win another round, another game after this as well. So my logic for doing that is that if we can just clean the mana leak out of our opponent's hand, we'll be doing okay. An island. I don't know why they haven't just been attacking aggressively with the factories. A Mesmeric Fiend. We can't play 2 cards, so we'll play the most expensive card we can play here. What a ridiculous game this is. We can food chain into Hypnox quite easily. But we just need to get rid of this humidity. We're nearly halfway through our deck and we haven't found a Naturalize yet. Alright, Wrath of God. Any order. Sure. Now we're going to... They could have done that and then attack with the Mistress Factories. Our opponent just doesn't seem... This is your second main phase opponent. That's not going to work like you want it to. Alright. Not the one we wanted. Am I willing to play out a food chain here? We have 2. So I think the answer to that is yes. We're overdue finding a Naturalize at this point. We do have to build up our mana again to get things where we need them to be. But now they should attack us for 6. So we don't have a lot of time. So we brought in 1 Tsabo's Web. Draw it now. Okay. We did not draw it now. I'm going to play a Mesmeric Fiend. Just have something in place. We've got some mana stored up. And if we need to chump block soon, then we can. We don't need to use our Cabal Therapy yet. We can use that on the turn we Naturalize. Opponent really doesn't want to attack when we have any creatures. Right, and the mana doesn't really do anything for us right now, so we just pass it over. If we had a Phantom Nishoba down and then they cast a Humidity, we'd have a really big creature because it keeps the counters on it. Decree of Justice. Yeah, I think that's all she wrote there. That's game. Alright, we got crushed by blue-white control again. Let's try another round out and see if we can get a different matchup. Alright, round 4. Our hand is pretty slow but does some interesting things. Given how this format works, I think just having a stable hand with a lot of resources makes sense. Still not wholly convinced by this Mystic Snake, but maybe this is the time it can shine. Polluted Delta. Alright, we're not against the blue-white control deck again. That is a relief. Just an island. I'll play a little forest. So we have the Deranged Hermit loop with the recurring Nightmare, which is pretty solid. Right, we've got Swamp, and we'll just pass. An Impulse, not a surprise to see that one. Right, let's see what our opponent is up to. Quicksand. Target attacking creature gets, without flying, gets -1/-2 in turn attack. It's a standstill. Oh, joy of joys. We are really missing not having some man lands to at least have a little crack at our opponents with. Alright, it's Phyrexian Rager time. You draw 3 cards, I draw 1. At least playing against Standstill in Premodern, you don't have your opponent then drawing a Force of Will and counting the thing you've played. At least we get to resolve the thing if they tap out for the Standstill. And now they need to shred 2 cards in the hand, or they have to go to clean up, so they might only get 2 cards out of that Standstill. Nope, we got... Oh, Nether Spirit. Nice. Love this card. So beginning of your upkeep, if Nether Spirit is the only creature card in your graveyard, it returns to play. Pretty cool. Little 2/2 guy. Big lover of this card. Okay, let's keep playing some lands out. So this makes 4 mana. Okay, so we can just try and do some food chain stuff here. So let's sack for green for the first one, I think. Here's Wall of Blossoms. We might be able to do the thing here. So we'll draw a card. We can exile this for black. Hold priority here. We get to permanently exile this, and we'll sack this for green mana. Goodbye, Nether Spirit. We get to play this Deranged Hermit. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we can just Hypnox and leave our opponent with nothing. Seems fine to me. Just trying to think if there's a way that we can do it without losing our Deranged Hermit. I don't think there is. Alright, so this is 8, 9, 10, 11. Hypnox. I guess we could have left one squirrel. Now I think about it. So we get to see their whole hand as well. Sickening Dreams, Parallax Tide. Yeah, so a different Tide deck. But now we have a giant monster in play. We can play this Nantuko Vigilante next turn. Oh my god, Chain of Vapor. That was an unfortunate thing for our opponent to draw straight away. If we just get one more turn, we can hold up the Mystic Snake. Unfortunate. So we saw a mana leak and some other stuff up there, and now we don't really have anything going on. Can I have a morph? Would like a morph, please. We don't get the morph. Alright, this Mystic Snake burning a hole in our pocket again. The Mystic Snake was very close to being relevant. We needed one more turn. Right, there's the Parallax Tide. I can't remember if we saw the Stifle here or not. I guess we did. Alright, that's probably going to be game. I'm pretty sure they had the Stifle to stop this Parallax Tide from dying, so... Rest in pieces. So they've also got things like the Chain of Vapor, which can bounce their own Parallax Tide after they put the triggers on. So I guess we're in a very similar spot as we were before. So probably these 7, and we're looking at getting rid of the Wall of... Is it Wall of Blossoms? I think it is. And we don't like this Mystic Snake. It doesn't really do anything for us. And the Faceless Butchers are better here because they have the Nether Spirit. So I'm less inclined to get rid of all of them. I think we can keep one as a tutor target, perhaps. And maybe we'll get rid of the Nishoba. Oh wait, yeah, we can get one of these cards back. Let's have another Wall of Blossoms just to have a little bit more critical mass to get through our deck. This is a very land-heavy hand. I think we can do better. Alright, this is a bit better. The Naturalize. I missed you. I think we're likely to draw some more lands than anything else. Like, we don't really like getting flooded. We kind of need that critical density of creatures to keep rolling, and we've just not been hitting that sometimes. So we get a Mesmeric Fiend off, though that's going to be pretty tasty. A Squee, that's not useful right now. Okay, we've got Counterspell. So Sickening Dreams is X damage to each creature, each player. They discard X cards. So we've got that. We can hit Standstill. I don't really like having to play through this Standstill. They don't have access to casting this Counterspell. So I think I'm going to take this Standstill. So Sickening Dreams is like their version of Wrath in their deck. But they have to spend cards to sweep our creatures. But then creatures are pretty easy to... Okay, so they're showing us they drew the Polluted Delta. That's interesting. So this is going to be another blue source, assuming they want to have Counterspell up. Okay. Can we draw a land? We can. Is Phyrexian Rager good enough to counterspell? That is the next question. I probably think they're just going to ignore it and cast this Impulse instead. That'd be my assumption. Because they can pick these up with Sickening Dreams down the stretch anyway. Imagine if we had Boseiju in this format and we could just Boseiju the Standstills. They didn't cast the Impulse at end step. I think that was just a mistake. There is the Quicksand. That can kill one of our guys. So this survival is not going to resolve. I think we just need to fire in another Rager. Just playing cards that aren't worth counterspelling. Now, maybe we shouldn't be playing cards that aren't worth counterspelling in our deck. That's a different question, but we'll answer that at the end of the video. So they're going to burn their Quicksand to kill our guy. They obviously would like to get their Standstill back, which is why we're not attacking with the Mesmeric Fiend, because we don't want that to get eaten up by the Quicksand. Right, so there is a Swamp. We're going to see the Sickening Dreams now. So they're going to have to discard some cards to get rid of these. And they will get access to that Standstill, but it's going to cost them at least one card to get the standstill. So the rate they're getting off of the standstill is worse. So I can take that. X equals 2. Again, we have an impulse and a factory. Curious. Right. Obviously, we lose all of our stuff, and they get their standstill back, which I imagine is what they play now. But we can then play the survival underneath their counterspell because the counterspell shield will be gone. Nope. They really don't want to let go of that counterspell. Unless they're playing the second main. Nope. Okay, they really don't want to let go of the counterspell. Understandable. I'm going to bait them with Food Chain. We don't actually want this Food Chain to resolve. Well, obviously we'd like it to resolve, but it's not that important. But I think they will counterspell this. Because they saw what it did last game. There we go. There's a counterspell. So we successfully baited that, and now we can just play a survival game. There's a standstill. Yep. So now they do have potentially counter mana up, which is not what we wanted to see. Okay, let's try and go for the survival. Can I have it, please? We don't get a better slot to play the survival here because our opponent's just going to have us under the standstill the whole time, and they're going to be drawing additional cards every turn. Well, they're going to have one more card in hand, and we're not going to have a way to play through it, really. I don't think we can just hope to draw a Mesmeric Fiend. Alright, we're in. Okay. It's time to do Squee things. What is the plan here? I think we just want a Mesmeric Fiend for next turn. We don't want to play it now because we want to hold it the Naturalize so they don't just remove all of our lands. This is obviously a weird play because they get to see that that's the thing that we want to be doing. And holding up our mana. Cephalid Colosseum. They are one away from having Threshold. There is the Parallax Tide. Okay. So the correct way to play around this right now... What is the correct way to play around this? So they put all these on the stack. So we lose all of our lands. And then they're going to Chain of Vapor their own thing. Okay. I'm going to respond by trying to blow this up. Now, this isn't the best situation for us. Because we're still going to lose a bunch of lands. But they're not going to be able to rebuy their Parallax Tide. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. And we left with one land or no lands here? No, we're left with no lands, okay. We just don't really have a good way of interacting with that. Cabal Therapy, sure. Not feeling great about this one. Our opponent does need to put a wing into play at some point. But we can't afford to let our opponent have double Parallax Tide. Because then we never get out of anywhere. Llanowar Wastes, that's something. For opponent. Alright. Eventually they're going to find some factories or whatever, but they don't have something like a Decree of Justice. So they can go to discard and discard their Nether Spirit, but they only have one in their deck. Or maybe two in their deck. But it's not really a thing you play in 4-Ls because obviously they trip over each other's toes a little bit. So we can start cycling away this Squee and getting some like Birds of Paradise if we want. I think that's reasonable to do here. We kind of like a bit more mana before I start deploying them, but we can just keep pulling them out of our decks and we're more likely to hit lands. I just feel that our game into these control decks with the Parallax Tide and stuff is just awful. We kind of need more mid-rangey matchups to face. Or aggro matchups where we can just put our guys in the way. Let's get Birds of Paradise. Am I willing to deploy the Birds of Paradise into their standstill? That'll feel great. But I think we have to do it. They can counterspell this. They can get more cards going. There's only so many standstills they can get through at least. Is our opponent's hand able to deploy something that actually wins the game? Right, they're getting their Cephalid Colosseum on. Discarded at Swamp Island Quicksand. Not bad. So we have Cabal Therapy, so we can get through multiple layers of protection and attempt to do whatever we're trying to do. It does feel like our opponent just has us covered though. 7 cards in hand, bunch of mana open. What are they playing here? Another standstill. A Parallax Tide. Okay. Alright, I don't want to play this game anymore. Yeah, we do not beat these Parallax Tide decks. We're going to play one more round and see how it goes. Alright, this is the final game we're going to play today, or the final round. Let's see how this hand plays out. It has some stuff I want in it for sure. We can get rid of this Mystic Snake and turn it into a useful card, I think. Let's start with a Forest. So we can get this survival down before our opponent has access to counter magic, maybe. We don't know what they're playing. Oh, red. Okay, we're going to be playing our Wall of Blossoms. Goblin Taskmaster. All right, this is a 1-mana 1/1. You can pay 2 to pump goblins. To pump target goblin. All right. This is more sort of pace that we've been looking for all day. Let's smash down a 0/4 blocker. Enjoy that. So rock decks should be pretty good. And we are kind of like a rock deck in a lot of ways. Should generally be pretty good against goblins. Sparksmith. Yep. That's a classic. If you haven't seen this one, it taps to deal X damage to target creature and to you with X number of goblins on the battlefield. Just a great card. I don't make them like that anymore. Okay, Survivor of the Fittest. Let's go. And we probably just turn this snake into a Squee on our opponent's turn. We can play goblins too. I don't think they get any good attacks here. So they can pump this and then pay mana as well. I think we're just going to take damage here. And we'll go and grab a Squee and we can start getting some real meaty creatures. Pile Driver. Now that is a very real creature. That's what they wanted us to block and lose our guy for. Get rid of this survival. Sorry, this snake. Go and get our Squee. So we're pretty close to being in a good spot here. I think I want to get a Wall of Roots just so we have more mana for next turn. Does that work here? Let's just work out what our turn looks like next turn. So this turn we could play the Wall of Roots and we could play the Birds of Paradise. And then we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then next time we can just go and play something like the Phantom Nishoba. That seems pretty good to me. Is the Wall of... We can do it with the Wall of Blossoms here and just get more cards, actually. And that works just as well for what we're trying to accomplish. Alright, don't mind having a Faceless Butcher. That's pretty good when we're doing food chain stuff. Just soak up some damages here. Alright, they're just taking out our birds and hit themselves for 3. Sure. That's fine. We don't have anything like a chroma, so the build I'm playing in paper at the moment has a chroma in. We should be pretty solid in this position. Alright, Pile Driver being large is certainly a worry. It's only a 3/2, so they're going to have to spend some resources to make this enough. We could block on both, but what are they going to do? They're just going to pump that guy, sure. So we can just take the 1 here, that's fine. We're just trying to build up to Phantom Nishoba. And hopefully they don't have enough goblins to make that good. Mog Flunkies. A 3/3. Alright. So we can take out the Pile Driver or the Sparksmith. Play Food Chain. See if they kill our Wall of Blossoms in response. They might do. They do indeed. So we don't quite have the mana I want for this. Looking at our deck, what do we want from this? I would like to put something bigger into play if possible. 13. So we can play this birds out, turn it into 2 mana. Okay, I think that's probably the line here, isn't it? Play the birds out. We play out our forest. We get rid of this Squee. I think we're probably just in getting another Wall of Blossoms here. They can just tap their guy, actually, can't they? But they could play 1 more Goblin. All right, let's get this Wall of Roots going. Let's sack this for green and play this out. And hopefully this we can play, sack it to Food Chain, and then we have 5 mana. We can play the Hermit Druid. That gives us some bodies for a turn. A Gem Palm Incinerator. That's pretty darn solid. Are we dead this turn? I don't know if we are. I think we get rid of this Faceless Butcher and go and get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to get the Heritage Druid here. Deranged Hermit. Sorry, why do I keep getting those two the wrong way around? No, Heritage Druid is a completely different thing, in fact, actually. Okay, so this is 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's a lot of damage. Okay, Sparksmith staying home. Not surprised. card is pretty messed up. So it's only +2 for each. Okay, actually no, there's only 2 goblins attacking. The factory isn't pumping it. We're on 7. Not Studio Brass, not you. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got blockers. I think we get the Nishoba here. It's the only thing that makes sense. And then, so this is 6. And we get rid of one of these. And then we can drop the Nishoba. So this should be pretty difficult for our opponent to get through. Alright, they're going to just take out one of our squirrel tokens. And take out another squirrel token. Things get a little bit awkward for us. Because they've got the factory as well to attack. Yep. And they got 2 pumps, so this is 5 damage. I don't believe we're dead this turn, but I think it's very close. Right, so killing one of our squirrels. Let's get blocks. So this wants to take this one out. That is the most damage at present. So we can block here. We take 3, 4, 5. They pump twice and we die. So we have to block the flunkies here, right? So we take 2, 3, 4, 5 damage here. So this is a trigger. This is not lifelink. So I deal the damage, then I get a trigger where I gain life. So I need to survive this hit first. And then we gain the 7 damage. Or 7 life. Alright, they just had enough because we get to crack back with the Nishoba and win. That was a really tight game. How do we want to deal with what our opponent's doing? This is where the natural orders come in. It makes sense now. Understood. I don't really like anything else here. I think it's just the natural orders we want. This is not a Hypnox game, I don't believe. So we get 1 natural order in there, and Mystic Snake I don't think is any good, so let's get rid of that. All our walls look very good this time around. So let's just rumble in. I don't think we need Genesis. This is probably not going to be a super long game because our opponent is like an aggro deck where they're trying to get the game over and done with. If we survive past a certain point, we're likely to then be able to take the rest of the game. Okay, this is what we want, I think. I will keep this. Wall of Roots into turn 3 Nishoba. I wonder if they have any tech to kill Nishoba. I'm not familiar enough with the format to say for sure. No 1-drop from our opponent is another thing I'm happy to see here. It's a pile driver. Let's get the Wall of Roots down. Next stop, Phantom Nishoba. War Chief. Okay. So I'm going to attack with both. We can block some damage here. So this is a 3. Right, so we'll block 3 damages. Natural away this guy. Get the Nishoba. Now they might have something like a Sulfuric Vortex to stop the life gain, but we still have a massive creature that is hard to deal with. Unless they have some sort of spell that just blows up white stuff. A War Chief. Is attacking here where you want to be? I'm not sure it is, but we'll find out. A Faceless Butcher. I think we deploy the wall. We find another land. We did find another land. I'm willing to take 1 to cast this Mesmeric Fiend and just take a little bite out of our opponent's hand. Goblin King. What's Flash of Defiance? Green and white creatures can't block this turn. Okay, I'm going to take this Goblin King, I think. And then we're going to attack with our guy and make sure we get our lifelink in. Like I said, we can't be blocking, so we may as well... we can obviously take the thing that lets us block and just sit there, but we do need to win this game, and turning our massive guy with lifelink sideways is a pretty good way of doing that. So I imagine we're going to get attacked for a fair bit here. It's a 7 power guy, is it? But this, I could trade off here, but then that gives them the Goblin King, which is just more damage. So I think we're just going to take the 5. Just get our block in while we can, because we know they've got this thing that stops us from being able to block. Sulfuric Vortex. Okay. That's the real deal there. So we're in a good old-fashioned race is what you're telling me. Okay, let's bash. We don't gain the life because of the Vortex. Let's get this in. Just take out the Pile Driver, I think. That's the biggest, scariest hitter there. This has been a very, very different round to the previous ones. We only need to hit our opponent for 1 more damage to get through here. We have 3 creatures. A Lightning Bolt. That gets them back the Pile Driver. But it will have haste as well because of the War Chiefs. Okay, another War Chief. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Because the pile driver gets pumped +1 for everything. This is not lethal though, right? No, it is lethal, right? This is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's exactly lethal. Yeah, okay. Pretty solid. Could we have done anything differently there? I'm not sure. That Llanowar goes to our face if we don't have the thing anyway. I think we're just okay to go in again on the play. We could board in some Naturalizers just to get rid of their thing. Do we want the Phyrexian Gargantua? Okay, we don't want this Desolation Angel actually. Let's have a Naturalize over that. Maybe we'll cut one of those. Like a big 4/4 body is not nothing. Alright, let's have a couple of Naturalizers. We don't want to draw all of them all the time. Okay, we can keep this one. We've got birds into Rager. Rager can trade with a lot of their creatures. It does cost us 1 life, but we get a card and we get to trade. And then at some point we can do survival things, but I think it's more important to get these things on the board. It's going to be the 1 mana guy. No, just a bolt in the bird. Okay, so now we will get the survival out. Or will we? Is it worth getting this Mesmeric Fiend instead? I'm down to Fiend here. Do they have any biggies? They have this pile driver. So we can just delay them a turn. We can take the Incinerator, they play the pile driver. That's not great for us. Let's just slow them down. They need to get a Goblin, then they need to incinerate us. We can just take some time. Obviously the factory is bigger than our creatures, but the Rager can check the factory. Let's get the Rager in. A Wall of Blossoms. Not too shabby. Can't attack into the factory. Goblin Sharpshooter. Well, this is a real messed up card. So it pings something for 1, but doesn't untap. But whenever anything dies, it untaps. So pretty messed up with some of the things we have in our deck, for sure. Let's get this Wall of Blossoms down. Phantom Nishoba. Okay. I think we want survival here. Does cost us a life, but I think it's worth having that permanent play. I think we can attack for 2. Actually, we can attack with the Mesmeric Fiend because they're not going to... They could trade here, but I don't really care if they do. We can end up in races in this game for sure. We need to get like a food chain and then we can just Nishoba and hopefully ride that to victory. Right, they ping our Mesmeric Fiend. They get their pile driver back. This was always going to happen. We at least got 1 damage out of it and delayed them, which is kind of what we need because our creatures, in theory, should be bigger than our opponents. Pile driver. They have tapped their Mishra's Factory though. But they do have an Incinerator. They can cycle the Incinerator on the Rager and kill it if they want. They can do that whenever as well. Our 1 toughness creatures look pretty bad here. Just get rid of this. Go and get a Wall of Roots, I think. Play a Wall of Roots. So we're attacking with a Rager. Like, they're going to kill it with a Incinerator anyway. No killing it with Incinerator. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana next turn. Not enough. Alright, so they're pinging us 1, then they're going to incinerate, kill our guy. They could have done this in combat. I don't know why they didn't. I guess they were worried about us having a Mesmeric Fiend. But your guy's untapped then anyway. I don't know. Okay. We'll carry on. We can lose a point of toughness on this Wall of Roots to get another thing off of our survival. Goblin King. We don't have any mountains, so that's something. But it does just pump all their guys. Well, this is incredibly suspicious activities. You've got a Lightning Bolt to finish us off, or another Incinerator. Alright, they're just testing our defenses. Maybe. A Mog Fanatic. Okay, I see what's happening here. They ping this, they can ping us with the Fanatic, and then they can ping the Wall of Roots. But at least we're like forcing a bunch of stuff to go into our Wall of Roots here. Oh, sorry, Wall of Blossoms. Very plant-themed board right now. Oh, they got a Lightning Bolt as well here. Okay, so they're pinging into the Wall of Roots, and then they're going to Lightning Bolt to finish it off. Let's get rid of this Mesmeric Fiend. It'd be nice if we had like a good 4-drop thing that we could deploy, but it doesn't seem to be where we're at right now. Could have a Wall of Blossoms just to draw some more cards. We could try and get rid of the Sharpshooter. I think we're just going to go for the Blossoms here. Just get a little bit more defense going. Hopefully we can find some more mana. A food chain. Okay, this is actively the sort of thing we've been looking for. There's no point cycling this away just yet. Alright, we'll pass a turn and hope that they don't kill us. They've got one card in hand. I don't know if it's a mountain. I think they probably have played all the mountains that we saw earlier. So we're close to doing something good here. The factory obviously does a lot. Okay, so we need to do some thinking here. So we have 3 mana here for the food chain. This is 3 mana. This takes us up to 4 mana. It's not quite good enough, but we do need to keep our creature alive, I think, here. We'll block this Goblin King and take a little bit more damage than I would necessarily like. 2 cards in hand. Don't incinerate me, please. I think we have to turn this birds into a Wall of Roots. Okay. Let me get this food chain up and running, please. Don't kill my Wall of Blossoms in response. Okay. As we sack this for green, we get a Wall of Roots. We shrink our Wall of Roots. So this is 1, 2... This is 3 mana. So sorry, 2 mana here. We get another 3 mana. So that's 3, 4, 5. And then we go down 2 mana to go to 3 mana. We play this out. This is worth 3 mana again, and then 1 mana from its ability. So that is exactly the right amount, if I can do my maths here. So I guess we'll find out here. So 3, 3, and 1. So we can get the Nishoba down. All right. We didn't even have to tap our City of Brass for that. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. We need to hope it's not the thing that stops us from blocking. This game is pretty close here. Alright, that can ping us. I haven't done the maths here. That's on our opponent to do. We just have to block the biggest thing and try and survive. 2, 4. Can they kill us in response to the gaining life trigger? Right, they're shooting us for 1. And they take... so they're pinging us for another 1. And they can ping us for another 1. That puts us to 6. It's currently 5 damage... Sorry, 4 damage coming in. So our abilities go on the stack first. So we gain our 7 life. Because it's active player, non-active player is how you stack things when they happen at the same time. I don't know if they had it there. They said they messed up, but I'm not sure they had the right window. I'll very much be just sending this creature at our opponent and guaranteeing that 6 life. So they're pinging it for 1, which means we only gain 5 life. But their creature remains tapped. But not a bad little selection there. I'm not sure the way that they get through it. They said they messed up. I'm trying to work out. They wait for the life gain to happen, but they still need that extra untap, which is always going to go underneath our Nishoba. So I don't think they had it. Maybe they just didn't like the attack, and that was the problem. And they shouldn't have attacked it because of the way the triggers get stacked. Gargantua. I don't think we need this, do we? Do I actually like any of these cards? I don't mind having a Wall of Blossoms. We could get the Squee and start doing Squee things. That's probably the actual correct thing to do, isn't it? I could put the factory under the bus here. We gain 4 life. We do have a recurring nightmare, which we might be able to find and then just bring back the Nishoba and we ruin our opponent's day. But again, it's another hit of 5. We're taking away one of our opponent's things. It will untap their Sharpshooter. That's not the end of the day, end of the world for us. It doesn't matter the size of the creature, because this just loses 1 counter whenever it's dealt damage, not based on the amount of damage it took. Okay, so we're nearly up to our starting life total again. Feeling a little bit happy about tapping this City of Brass. We'll probably just get nipped away at by this Goblin King. Slowly shrinking our Nishoba though. Mog Conscripts. Can't attack unless you've cast a creature spell this turn. Okay, let's fire in with this survival. Because we get our Squee back anyway. What are we looking for here? Probably... we just want some more mana, so it's probably just a Wall of Roots if we have them. No, we've gone through all of our Wall of Roots, have we? Wall of Blossoms it is, I guess. Just turtle right up nicely. Return this. And we're sort of seeing our mid-range engine popping off a bit here. Let's get the Wall of Blossoms in. Can we find a forest, please? Love a forest. Not a forest. We're still attacking. Ping it for 1, that makes it a 3. I'm going to trade the conscripts off for it? No. Alright, we're just going to do 3 damage to them. We're also shutting off some of their scarier looking things. Like they can't do Sparksmith stuff and just keep clearing our board anymore because they don't have the life total to do it with. Mod conscripts. So this allows the other mod conscripts to attack. So we take 2 damage this turn if they attack with both of these. And that's fine. I think I'm willing to survival again. Just keep paying our survival tax every turn from the City of Brass. Maybe one day we'll find another forest. I wasn't running City of Brass in my own build. I can obviously see why you would run it though. What do we want here? I think it's just Wall of Blossoms again. Just shields up. We've got a lot less time on our clock than our opponent. We're going through a lot more operations. And I'm almost certainly newer to playing the format than our opponent is. Alright, Wall of Blossoms. It's your time to shine. Found a forest. Lo and behold, there were forests. Let's get rid of... Maybe their conscripts goes here. Okay. So we trade this off, we're left with a 2-2. And we gain another 3 life. So this time the triggers go the other way around. So they're pretty close to finishing off our Nishoba. So we have to work out what we do after that happens. So we could start doing some food chain stuff. I think I'm going to deploy this Mesmeric Fiend. And then with its trigger on, I'm going to exile it for black mana. And permanently take a card from our opponent's hand. I really like how the nightmare creatures work with food chain. 2 mountains. Okay. Let's take a little bit of damage here. We are ahead in creatures. And Naturalize. It's not really where I need to be right now. We could turn a Wall of Blossoms into another Rager. And then we can just start blocking and killing our opponent's things. That seems fine to me. Maybe we find that recurring nightmare and it's all fine then. Let's get another big Nishoba. We've already played around for the turn because we found that forest. I don't want to lose my Squee. So I think we go and get the Faceless Butchers now that we know our opponent's hand is basically nothing. And then hopefully we can just cross the finish line. We already have the answer for the Sulfuric Vortex in hand. We've drawn a lot more cards than our opponent because that's the nature of what we're trying to do here. We're a mid-range deck, they're an aggro deck. Okay, we're going to go to 14 here. Just going to get this Faceless Butcher, I think. We'll return the Squee. I think we have enough time to win this game. Be a really cool round, this one. A food chain. Let's play the Faceless Butcher. Let's get rid of the Goblin King. And I am going to exile my Faceless Butcher here. Then we're going to survival. Get rid of this Squee. Get ourselves another Faceless Butcher. Cast this one. Get rid of their Sharpshooter, which I assume is going to ping us. I'm not going to sacrifice this one though. Yeah, they shrink our Nishoba. It's annoying, but it's fine. It's GG's, I guess. Certainly feels that way. Opponent. Let's see my next draw. You go ahead, opponent. I'm going to trade that off. We get 1 damage. We get 2 damage if the cross here. We have lethal next turn. If they can bolt our Faceless Butcher, maybe something happens because they can ping, kill the Nishoba, untap their guy. Was it another mountain for our opponent there? Could be. A Mog Flunkies can't attack or block alone. Oh dear, oh dear. 2 mana 3/3s in this format. Pretty good. How's a drawback though? Alright, so that's the end. So how do we do? We went 2 and 3. One of the rounds we won was also because our opponent had a bad first game and decided they weren't having any more or they disconnected or something. So, yeah, not the best record. We just got bodied by the Parallax Tide deck over and over and over again. So, I have a lot of thoughts about this list. We are basically a survival deck, is how it felt most of the time. Occasionally we did some cool food chain stuff, but we weren't really dedicated to food chain that much. We were just trying to play like this rocky sort of game. And that makes it a little bit more difficult to justify some of the other bits and pieces we're doing, I think. But what I will say is the rock stuff felt very good. I have played a little bit of Survival Rock in Premodern in paper, and that deck is, you know, really hot. It's one of the decks you should know about in the format. And it kind of felt a little bit like we were playing a worse version of Survival Rock. Now, occasionally we could do some really good stuff, but as you saw, when we did the food chain, we went all the way up the food chain, we played that big Hypnox, and then our opponent immediately drew an answer for it, and the game was over. That was pretty annoying, I won't lie. We could definitely have creatures where that won't be the case, but they had like a full grip, so if the Hypnox got to stick around, it would have been good. Oh, all right, let's go and scroll back this way. So there's some stuff I do like in this deck. The Deranged Hermit was definitely an interesting thing to go and grab on occasion. The Mystic Snake, however, I do not think this card should be in the deck. We can use 2 City of Brass or City of Brass and a Bird's Paradise, 2 Bird's Paradise, whatever, to cast it, but it's just not really happening. And the only time that Mystic Snake's ever going to come up, in my opinion, is when we have both Food Chain and Survival of the Fittest running already. And in that situation, it's like, we've already jumped through all the hoops. We've got everything going. We don't really need another thing on top. There was one situation where it could have come in handy, this league, and unfortunately, you know, it didn't. So I'm not convinced on the Mystic Snake. I've personally, when I've been playing Food Chain, been trying to err away from Survival of the Fittest for several reasons. Firstly, in paper, this card costs a lot of money, and I don't have the money to buy this. And I'm hoping that I can have one that doesn't. That I can build a deck that doesn't require it. Secondly, when you start playing Survival, you start ending up a lot more like a Survival Rock deck, which is, you know, you've got your Hermit, you've got your Squee, your Nantuko, that sort of thing. So we're kind of airing more into that. And if you're going to air into like Survival Rock, I think this deck would be better if we cut the Food Chain package and just played more like Rock cards instead of trying to do the Food Chain stuff. So I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze with this particular build with Food Chain. The list I was running before, which you can see on my channel if you search Premodern, was running way more into making the Food Chain work. So we had Fierce Empath instead of Survival of the Fittest as our tutor engine, and that could go and get us any of our 6-drops. So it got us Gargantua to draw more cards, or I could find a Hypnox, or we're playing an Acroma. Not on the video I recorded last time, but it is in my paper build at the moment, and the Acroma seems pretty good. I also want to put a Vizara the Dreadful in. It's just a way of keeping the board clean. I think that's a good shout as well. And 6 mana is relatively castable on that card as well. So I think there's definitely some really good stuff in this deck. And this might be better than the deck we played last time on the channel. However, I think this deck is just worse than Survival Rock. And it kind of begs the question, why are we trying to do these Food Chain things when we could just remove them and have a really strong survival deck? And that is sad, obviously, but maybe that's the case. I'm obviously going to keep experimenting with Food Chain because I have them in paper. I love playing Food Chain. If you watch my Legacy content, you know I am a bit of a Food Chain lover and play lots of weird and wonderful builds of it. So overall, I'm not convinced with this build. It's probably a step in the right direction power level wise, but I think when you start stepping in this direction, you kind of ask yourself, why are we still doing Food Chain when the best things we can do, you know, we could strip, like Mesmeric Fiend still exists in the Survival Rock decks anyway, but we could strip out a whole bunch of, you know, this selection of cards. We could probably just turn them into much better cards and end up with a stronger deck, which, you know, isn't the way to be. There's only so many engine cards you can play necessarily. Food Chain is kind of an engine, but it's a weird one that needs you to have a critical mass of resources. I think what a Food Chain deck needs to do is have a lot more ability to draw cards than what we currently have. Another thing I was thinking about as well with the deck is when we're running like a survival package as well as the Food Chain big stuff to go and find, it can sometimes give us too many cards. Like there was one hand we had to throw back because it had, you know, like Hypnox and Nishoba and something else in it as well. Just a bunch of stuff that isn't really what you want in your opening hand. It's stuff you want to find later on. So there's like another thing where the way this deck is built is giving us more of those awkward draws to try and do stuff. Now, I certainly appreciate trying to fit Food Chain in here. And, you know, Sunny spent some time on this deck and it is pretty sweet. But I'm not sure this is where I want to go with Food Chain. I think I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, maybe I just want to play Survival Rock. I do have some food chain decks of other colours ready for the channel at some point, and we'll get to those when I can. I have a Premodern tournament in April, I think it is, so I've got a little while to mess around with some different builds and see if I can find something I really like for that tournament. So if you have any ideas, let me know, but I've got 2 different other coloured builds, possibly 3 that I want to try, but maybe green-black isn't actually the way to go forward, because it just feels like we're playing a worse version of Survival Rock, even if this is potentially better than the other build of Food Chain we were playing before. I think a lot of that is off the back of just Survival Engine being incredibly strong in Premodern. It's certainly a Legacy power level thing to be doing. Like, we don't get to play this in Legacy for good reason. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this foray into Premodern. Please let me know what you think. Big thank you to Sunny for sharing the deck list and just chatting to me about Food Chain as well. I really appreciate that. And keep on brewing. And please, please, please let me know what you want to see in the comments. I am doing Food Chain stuff for my own testing, so you're going to be seeing a lot more Food Chain. But, you know, if you've got any ideas of different colour combinations that you think work and why, I would love to hear it. And if you just want to see Premodern content on the channel, let me know. It was generally going to be bonus content, but if enough people want it, then maybe we can fit like one Premodern league in every couple of weeks in my regular content or something. I don't know. You just have to let me know what you lovely people want to see. I am at your whim. All right, thank you so very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.